Do it.
Do it.
Welcome to the Austin Otaku Podcast, hosted by Jesse McDonald and Keith Good.
Welcome back to the Austin Otaku Podcast, everyone. My name is Jesse McDonald, and joined this week by the continually frustrated Keith Good. Keith, how are you doing?
I'm so frustrated. I thought you were going to go with continually frustrating. As soon as I heard you say continually, and I thought, oh, he's going with frustrating. Yeah.
That's it.
I would say...
I thought about it, and to be 100% honest and transparent, I lost if this week was positive or negative.
Negative.
So I figured I'd throw it in the middle. Because sometimes frustration is good, or good. Yeah. So maybe I fudged that one a little bit, but I think it's good. How are you doing, bud?
I'm fine. I'm not nearly as frustrated as I usually am, but that's because it's Friday.
Yeah,
I'm just going to say a lot of tautologies about Fridays. Every single Friday, I'm going to say something obvious about Friday, like Friday leads to Saturday. How about...
I don't know if this bit is going to last in our format, bud.
You're right. I'll run out of tautologies before we run out of episodes. So, how are you this week, Jesse?
I'm good. I'm very good. As of recording this, because I know it's going to be a few weeks before it goes out, started feeding the kiddo solids this week. Learned that she likes sweet potatoes and really doesn't like peas. So, yeah, that's kind of where my life is. I'm a pea fan. I'm a big sweet potato fan, too. I turned orange as a kid. I ate so many. But I also like peas, so I don't know. She might be more of her mother's daughter.
If she likes edamame.
Oh, definitely going to try that. Try that. Cool. Well, I'm really excited for this week's guest, man. Someone that we always frequently see whenever we go to conferences in Dallas. So very excited. Our guest this week is Content and Communications Strategist, speaker, and poet Aisha Willis. She has a degree in both journalism and public relations, and she is the founder of The Right Solution. In her spare time, she advocates for social justice, writes fan fiction, enjoys anime, obsesses over K-pop, and is a pretty big soccer fan. Welcome to the show, Aisha.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here.
Oh, bro, it's nice. It's nice. Now, I do kind of wish I was there in Austin, even though, I mean, like, it's hot as, whatever there and here, so we're good, So the heat would not be a detractor.
You can't flee the heat in Texas, I'm afraid.
At all. No.
I feel like that's an album name. You can't flee the heat.
There you go. Should we have a band?
I like it.
Let's do it.
We're going to start the Austin Otaku band.
Yes.
I play a hell of a triangle.
I got kazoo for sure.
You got kazoo?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I mean, I do have an actual guitar over there.
I'm currently ignoring my guitars, bass, and drums sitting right in front of me, but I'm going to take the kazoo. I do have a didgeridoo in the corner over there. Not good at it, but hey.
The guitar in the corner, I'm not good at it. I haven't played in so long.
Sadly, I let my guitar weep gently for too long, and now it's rusted. So
well played.
Oh,
very well played.
Oh, yes.
Very well played. Well, thank you for being on the show, Aisha.
Can she still cry Mary though?
Oh wow, it came back around. Holy hell, that's great.
Sure. If we want to do the classic, I mean, we could do this all day.
And we will for sure. Before we get a little too deep, or before we get into it too much, will you tell guests a little bit more about yourself personally and professionally?
Well, my name is Aisha Nicole Willis, and I'm giving you my full name because it means a lot to me. Aisha is actually, it means life. Nicole means victorious. So victorious life is what my name means, and that's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm like, it can actually also mean love, and I don't know what this victorious love life is supposed to be, but we're working. And we were talking a little bit before we started recording, and I just kind of have a lot of different interests go a lot of different ways with things, just personally, professionally, also kind of have a interesting resume. When I was in high school, we won't talk about how long ago that was. There was a big push to get women, especially women of color, into STEM. So even though ever since I was in second grade, from the time I could write, people have known I could write, like that I could do this. I was pushed towards, a more marketable profession. So when I actually went to the Science Magnet High School here in Dallas, although probably should have gone to arts, details. I did end up, I tried to make it work though, to where I could win on both counts when I went to college the first time and studied architecture for 4 years before going insane. And because not sleeping for 4 years will do that to you. And I loved it. Like design is, I don't even know how to explain it. Design is like Mr. Good, you're continually frustrated. Is that what it is? Design is like that. Design is like, it's so amazingly beautiful and frustrating at the same time, right? Because there's so many rules and regulations and trying to put the art into it. So that's how I started my career. And I did not finish in that degree program, but I did get to work in it for a little while, and it was a lot of fun, but also frustrating. And then I went and had an illustrious retail career, as one does when one does not have a degree. And which is, and I mention this because sometimes people, not everyone has a fun feeling about retail. Mm-hmm. But I will tell you this. I learned almost everything I know about marketing being on a sales floor. There's just nothing like learning to take care of a client, especially when clients are, clients, than when you're on a sales floor. And so
they're always right. Those customers are always right.
They're always right. And so spent time frontline retail, ended up making my way into being corporate retail. Now that's where it got really fun, because then I became a project manager and I started organizing conferences, and which is one of the reasons you always see me running around at State of Search, because I used to be the person who literally put that kind of thing on. And in addition to doing incentives and recognition, also part of my other marketing training. So came out of that and ended up going back to school and finally pursued communications degrees. So I know it's the wonderful world, but that is, so in my brain, I've got all of this, like I've got this design training and this sales training and, and then I'm insane about grammar because someone has to be.
That's an interesting, you took the scenic route to where you are today.
Oh yeah, that is exactly it. What is the meme, where it's like how we expect life to be, and then there's that straight line, and then there's the how it actually is, and it's just like, looks like a cat playing with yarn or something. It's just,
that's the truth. I think all three of us could attest to that we are in a field that we did not go to school for, basically.
At all.
100%. That is 100% the truth. I find it interesting, your story, where you felt sort of compelled to go into STEM and focus on that. And part of me wishes they had done more of that when I was in school, because I am utterly fascinated by the sciences, and any of the attempts from writers like Brian Greene or even, Neil deGrasse Tyson to bring hard sciences down to the masses and help us learn is great. At the same time, there's also aptitude. And it sounds to me like they didn't really take your aptitude into account. Your aptitudes are in the creative areas. Your aptitudes are in writing and those types of things. So while I think you probably had a much more enriching experience by going down the wrong path for a short period of time, or at least maybe even a long period of time.
It was long time. It felt like an eternity.
Hey, but you came out better for it, right?
I did.
You could probably, you could probably.
I left out the whole section about going to ministry school. I left that part out, but that was there too.
Yeah, absolutely. You touched on so many of the areas of the human experience. You've got the sort of the concrete, non-abstract aspects of physical existence, which are the sciences. You've got the sort of emotional, mental aspects of design and creativity, and then you got the spiritual aspects of your ministry as well. So you've hit on them all.
It's very funny. One of the reasons, and do I have an aptitude for science? Sure. Like, I will never, and you can quote me on this, never not brag about the fact that I made like a 95 in chemistry in high school. And then we took college, and then I took college chemistry also in high school. And the only reason I didn't get 100 is because I missed too many days. So I will never not brag about that. So I had a certain aptitude for the sciences, and absolutely, physics is amazing, but it's like the brain only goes, it's like maybe second gear, and then it's just like the glaze begins, and it's just like, you're just like, I was following you, and then you jumped off a cliff, and I couldn't do it.
It's really fascinating too. And you're an anime fan, as the two of us are as well. And one of the things I always noticed about, and I don't know how true this is in reality in Japan, but certainly in the animes, the way they portray middle school and high school is that you kind of have to decide rather early on what your aptitudes are and where you want to sort of pursue. And the high school you go to is geared towards whatever aptitude you assume. So there are, maybe high schools that are more adapted to the physical engineering or even mechanics. And then you've got high schools that are maybe more liberal arts. I always thought as a viewer of anime, they might be pigeonholing these kids in an area that they aren't going to be happy in. And a lot of the anime oftentimes are about people discovering that's not what they want to do with their life. They want to do,
yes. Oh my gosh. Which is that's one of the reasons they're so great, right? One of the great things about anime is that it's such a great medium for storytelling, right? Because you can tell, you can get your, your moral, like Kill la Kill. I will never forget how I don't know if either of you watched that one, but I almost totally dipped on Kill la Kill when I first saw it. I was like, what is this fan servicey? Well, and I would have missed such an incredible story, right? But because it is that medium, speaking of like high school, right? That's one of the ones where it's like, when people are like, do you like high school animes? And I'm like, if you're talking like high school, like it's portrayed in Yu Yu Hakusho or Kill la Kill, yes.
Well, don't forget Shokugeki no Soma or Food Wars.
Okay, look, I've seen like only a few episodes of Food Wars, which is, kind of sad, but yes, those are, oh my god.
See, that one's on my list. I haven't gotten there.
It always makes me hungry.
It will always make you hungry, but it's a fascinating idea of this high school that is 100% dedicated to the culinary arts.
Yes. See, my wife, when we met in high school, we were 15 when we met.
Oh, mercy. Wow.
Yeah, we've been together 16 years. When we met, her initial plan was to go into culinary. She loves cooking, was taking vocational culinary classes during high school. So she would get on a bus at like lunch and then go across the street to the Votech and do her culinary thing. So she thought that was what she wanted to do. Ended up going and doing some national baking competitions and just found she wasn't prepared for it. But anyway, decided that just wasn't what she wanted to do professionally. She wanted to continue to be the thing that she enjoyed. So the thought of a show entirely based around a school for cooking is really intriguing. I know she tried to watch it a little bit, but with the kiddo, that kind of was put on pause for her. But yeah, that one's definitely on our list. So I'd be interested to see how my wife reacts to that sort of thing.
Well, I will say, having gone to school like that, in Dallas, we have the magnet school programs, and I went to. It's just okay. So I went to quote unquote typical elementary, but when it was time to go to junior high, they wanted to get me into the magnet programs. Again, I should have gone to Griner, I believe is the name of the arts school. But I ended up at Longfellow, which is the career academy. So you would funnel from your elementary, you would have funneled into Longfellow and then gone to business magnet, right? That would have been, or I can't even think of what the science one was called for junior high, and then gone to science or Griner and then gone to arts. But I went to the business junior high, and then the science specific high school. I will say this, though. I love that I went to the science specific high school because I learned so many things. Part of me, of course, will always wish I'd have gone to arts, but there is just nothing like learning electronics and how to solder from a former Marine. I'm sorry. Oh my God. I did not mean to say former Marine. From a Marine. From a Marine who you just were wondering any day if he was going to just snap. Just is this guy? Because he had this big bushy beard and he smiled a lot, but you were like, I swear, I wonder if he's going to just kill us one day if we just.
This whole thing's a ruse.
A bunch of 10th graders, and this is the board. Back before the internet, there was the board, and we were always doing stuff we shouldn't have done. So yeah, it was what a time to be alive. But yes, I mean, even when you do end up on an interesting path. And still end up in the right place eventually. I hope that wasn't too boring for you.
No.
Did you have a particular anime that you found to be unforgettable and you've had to watch it a number of times?
Okay, I was hoping you'd ask. So I'm telling my age here, but my favorite anime, because it's always hard to just pick one, right? The Read or Die series. I don't know if you're familiar with yes. I am in love with Yamaka Reedman. She is just the nerd. I mean, come on, the nerd is the hero. She is the queen of awkward, and somehow, she is just such a badass. I think one of the reasons I love Read or Die so much is because it is so gray. From the time we're really young, we're taught that life is black and white and you do all these things. And if you follow this path, then things will work out well, right? Mm-hmm. And I think one of the things about growing up that's the hardest thing you realize is that life is not black and white. It's very gray. And there's shades of that gray. And Read or Die, the main one, the 3-episode, the OAV for it is, or OVA, whatever it is, it's kind of almost simple, right? It's just a quick one and done. You're like, oh my gosh, that was but then when you watch ROD the TV, the 26th episode that comes after it, it is just, well, who are the bad guys? It's because you're I mean, it very much seems like they're the bad guys, but oh my gosh, there's just a whole lot happening there. So that was probably, and to see how, characters change over time is, I love. So that is, I have seen that so many times. I own both of those, and on DVD, no less, not even Blu-ray, on DVD. One of my other absolute favorites, I would say these are neck and neck. Again, another older one is Full Metal Panic. That series, which I have the DVDs of all of those, and except for the last season, season 4 came out, I believe, either last year or it may have been in 2018. Finally, but I have all of the, what do you call them? The manga and the light novels. And like, I love that story because it's just like, it's insane, you know?
That's, as someone who really enjoys giant robots and mech, that's one that's always been on my list, but I've just never gone to. And Read or Die even.
Actually, Jesse, just like, you can just unplug now. I don't even want to talk to you anymore.
All right. Well, it's been nice. It's been nice
great
talking to you guys. I'll see you next week, Keith.
I mean, it would just be great if the metal could save you, but the metal will not save you at this point. I'm kidding. I'm listening. I'm sorry.
But that one's always been on my list and will always be on my list. And the same with Read or Die. I remember, I think Cartoon Network, Toonami, Adult Swim, can't remember which one, played the OVA.
Yes.
When I was first getting into anime back in like 2004, and I remember just really liking it, and just nothing ever happened with it. They didn't show the whole thing, so that always bummed me out. So that one stays on my list as well.
It was G4. Like, well, no. I mean, like, yes, Toonami showed it. It was like the Saturday night movie. They showed the 3-episode thing as like a movie.
Yeah.
And side note, and I do want to say this, and I hope people aren't offended by it, but it was such a weird world. And even like thinking about it, I'm getting goosebumps when I did watch that for the first time. And there's a scene in New York. And obviously this was like, I think it was it must have been done. It was originally like made in early 01. So when we were watching it in like 03, 04, the Twin Towers were still, the World Trade Center is there. And it's like, it was, you know, that shock of seeing it, you know, even in a cartoon space, it was just like, whoa, you know, and it was just, I was like, wow. And I thought that was very interesting that Cartoon Network even continued to decided to show it, especially right after that happened.
Yeah,
but,
totally.
Yeah, it was just, it's like when you watch a movie from back, you know, before 9/11 happened and you see it and you're just like, you know, it's a very unreal moment, you know? So,
it is. Yeah.
Not to get all deep and somber and whatnot, but I you know, entertainment, life, it interacts, you know? Intertwine.
No, totally.
No, totally. And I'm sure there's a German word for the feeling, because they always have a word, right? For the feeling
really,
that you have.
do.
They really do. They literally have a word for everything. But I was just watching a John Candy movie from like 1991 called Delirious, which is not so. It's not even such a great movie, but I still had to watch it because, you know, I'm in this bad movie kick. Right? Yeah, John Candy, and he's a writer for a soap opera in New York City, and of course they do the panoramic city shot, and there's the Twin Towers sitting right there. And that feeling that you have of watching something that is completely destroyed and gone, and the world has changed so significantly since. I'm sure there's a German word for it. So if we have any listeners that are German or speak German, write in with the word, because we want to know the
inquiring minds.
Inquiring minds want to know. Yes.
The 30-letter word that you have for that.
Well, it's really funny. We have hit that halfway point already, and it's time for the potentially infamous "Tell Me Something Good" segment.
Tell me something good.
Woo!
Yay!
So let's kick it off this week with Aisha. What's your recommendation? What's your otaku recommendation this week?
Okay, so my otaku recommendation this week. I noticed you guys said I was obsessed with K-pop. I don't know that I'm obsessed. I'm sure I probably wrote that, but like, I love. Okay, so my group is Twice. I love them. Twice is everything that I thought I would not like about K-pop. It's there's 9 members, which is just like way too many. And their concept for a while was like super, like really cute. And I used to listen to Pantera, for God's sake. Come on now. What is this?
Yes.
I used to listen to Living Color. I mean, I still do. Like, and now I'm, Me like you. That's a song. I swear I'm not being ugly. But it's Twice recently released, I think it was either last week or 2 weeks ago, their first English single. Their last album is called More and More. So they released an English version of that song. And you can find it on Spotify or Apple Music or any of those. And it's Twice, like spelled like normal.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yes.
I've never been a huge K-pop guy, but it's something that I find intriguing, especially as someone who likes J-rock and even admittedly J-pop.
Yeah, we're definitely going to need to get into the K-pop stuff because I think we had a really interesting conversation in Dallas about that last time we had State of Search. But we'll get into that for sure.
Yeah,
Jesse, what's your otaku recommendation for the week?
So it's funny. The more we do these, the more I'm thinking, oh man, I wish we could just do a whole episode where I recommend a ton of shit to people. So I've been finding ways to optimize this. I talked about a trilogy of movies, a book that accompanies it. And this week I'm going to do something similar that branches out a little bit further than that. I'm going to recommend the comic book series, The Amory Wars. Basically it is a science fiction kind of Star Wars-esque sort of story, very spacey, has some superhero elements to it. But the kicker for me, particularly, is that it is written by the lead singer of my favorite band in this world, Coheed and Cambria. And the story actually goes and tells the story of most of their albums. So they're at about 9 albums right now.
What?
8 of them actually tell this story. So their first 5 tell the story more or less in order. The first one being more of like a prequel part 1 type thing. But the comic book does that. Each book is an album, more or less, and it tells the story of the main character, whose name is also Claudio, because the entire story is actually a metaphor for things that have happened in Claudio's life. So first issue, the parents of this hero turn into these monsters and start destroying the world. It's a representation of Claudio's father being a functioning heroin addict.
Wow.
At some point, like in the story, his girlfriend, he's wrestling with, because it splits into the character of a writer and a character within the story, and them wrestling with how to deal with the fact that his girlfriend has cheated on him and what does happen to her character in the story. So in turn, while I'm recommending this series of comic books, one having a novel as well, also in that is the music of Coheed and Cambria itself. So check both of those things out. They're super cool and important to my life. So what about you, Keith? What are you grooving on this week?
Well, I am thankful that you decided to recommend the music of Coheed and Cambria in addition to your other recommendation, because I had initially thought about recommending a Japanese band, but then I felt compelled that there might be something else that I wanted to recommend. And sure enough, I did. I just searched my brains for a few minutes and realized there was a really great show that came out a few years ago. It's an anime series called Gate. Oh, and if you've had an opportunity to watch this, I'm sure you'll agree with me on this, but it is a terrific show. It's definitely on the harem side, because it and I don't mean to just recommend harem animes, because I don't.
I was kind of looking at some notes and like, wow, Keith's really recommended a bunch of harem anime.
Yeah, it's really sad, but it's really kind of a cool story too. There is a point in history in which a gate suddenly appears in the middle of the Ginza district in Tokyo. So Ginza is very, very upper echelon shopping district in Tokyo. And out of the gate pops this army of medieval monsters and knights, and they start hacking away at people. Just, these poor Japanese people that are just sort of taken back and shocked. After a few minutes, the SDF or JSDF kicks in, the Japan Self-Defense Force kicks in and obliterates this medieval army with modern weaponry, of course. And they realize the gate has been left open. And so they're able to go back through the gate to this medieval world with all of this massive military equipment, and they're able to sort of bring justice back to this medieval world. But they send this one character in, the main character of the series. He just happens to be an otaku, which is kind of funny. He's a huge manga otaku, so he knows all the tropes. And it just so happens that he ends up being surrounded by all of these women who fit these standard anime tropes of sort of the elf girl and the, the sort of half human, half animal girl. And
are you sure this isn't Tenchi?
It's not. It's really not, but it's actually a really, really good
every Tenchi.
It's a really good show, though. I highly recommend it. It's called Gate, and it is available on Crunchyroll. Not a sponsor.
Not a sponsor yet.
Wait, so it's so funny, like with what you guys are talking about. Okay, so Jesse, your recommendation made me think of years ago, Daft Punk worked with Master Leiji Matsumoto for, do you remember when Discovery came out? And then they had that visual album, I guess, part of it called Interstellar 5555. And so it's like an anime of its own, right? Yeah. And that was so like, so
is that the one that they played on Cartoon Network back in the day?
They played it. So like this one, around somewhere there, they played like the first 4 songs from that, and then a bunch of Gorillaz stuff as well. And then the one that you were talking about, Keith, oh god, come on now. Made me think of the Vision of Escaflowne.
Okay, Escaflowne, yep.
Gate opens, and just like, you want to talk about something being completely different from the movie being so different from the actual series. That was like, what just happened? That one. So sorry, but like that just totally made me think of both of those, things there.
That's awesome.
Which, if we're going to mention Escaflowne, we have to mention the lady who did the soundtrack, or the main song, the theme, Yoko Kanno. I don't remember.
Yoko Kanno. Yeah. I was going to say Yoko Kanno. She's, in my opinion, one of the most underrated composers and music directors in history, and she really needs to have a monument built to her somewhere while she's alive. So, or at least get a Grammy.
Seriously,
she's really, really awesome.
So sorry, just didn't mean to take over. It's like, oh my god,
no worries.
This and that, and the other.
That's how this segment works. And so those are our recommendations this week for Tell Me Something Good.
Tell me something good.
So now that we're in the second half, let's really dive into K-pop. So what is it about K-pop that you kind of that resonates with you?
So if I'm being completely honest, a lot of it. Okay, some people I have heard say they don't like it because it sounds dated, and that would probably be the exact reason I do like it, because a lot of it sounds like 90s R&B or 90s R&B or dance. And so the stuff that I do like, because I have intentionally kept it a bit small, because it's a huge industry. But those are the things that I really like that drew me in. I will say this. So K-pop is one of those things that I was like on the outskirts and edges of for a while before I actually took the dive in. And because some of my online friends, Twitter is a magical place, were into it. And I was like, I don't know, man. And again, I was already into anime and comics, and, I'm a musician, and look, you can only have so many expensive habits, right? And, I could never do drugs. You know why? Because I can't afford to, okay? Like, that's the fact that I don't want to. I can't afford to.
Drugs, not a sponsor yet.
Ooh. I want that on a shirt.
I know, right?
But a few years ago, this one group took a big chance, and they added an African-American woman to their group.
Nice.
which was very interesting. And I've actually heard her name's Alex Reed. She's no longer in the industry, but like she still gets invited to like K-Cons and things like that. And people love her. And she went through some things. She was like, the industry was very welcoming to her. She's like, other artists were great. She's like, but it was just a very odd situation for her. Right. But that was one of the things that got me a little more into it. And then a few years ago, a friend of mine, her kids were super into, this new group that was forming called Stray Kids. And so ended up watching their reality show, which let me just tell you, oh my God, that's the stuff that gets you, right? I think that's really one of the other things that gets you. Like, here's the deal. I don't like American Idol. I don't like The Voice. I don't like these competition shows, right? They're just, I mean, now I will occasionally watch The Voice because there's a lot of really talented people on there. And, you know, if I hear something, I might watch it, but it's not my cup of tea. Right. But again, you know, my friend's kids and I was hanging out with them and I started watching it and just the storytelling on this. Right. And you get attached to these people and then you're watching it and you're like, and then someone gets cut and then you're like, why am I crying? Like a little child here. Like, it's like, and you know, so watching them be formed and all this stuff. So I kind of was following along with them and vibing to them a bit. And I mean, and of course I'd heard of BTS by this point and was like kind of following it just, you know, years and years and years ago when the Latin pop, let's go back in time here, the Latin explosion happened in the US. I was already super into Latin music. It was how I learned Spanish. One of the ways I learned Spanish. And so my other reason for getting into K-pop is I want to learn Korean. So I was like, worked before, let's go for this again. But as I kind of started following these guys, I was like, I mean, they're cool and all, but I started getting into a couple of more groups at the same company. And so I got into GOT7 and love those guys. You want to talk about like 90s R&B type style? That's GOT7 all day long. I love them. They're amazing. Please listen to Jackson Wang's singles. And because he's got singles in English. But from there, ended up seeing some Twice videos. And Twice. Yeah. Their main dancer, I'm just saying, their main dancer, her name, well, they have two main dancers, but the initial one, her name is Momo, Hirai Momo. She's actually Japanese. And I will tell you, trying to watch their reality show that made their group, like, you should only watch it if you have a therapist, because you're going to need to go to therapy after you watch this series. It is so like, oh my God, the stuff those kids went
Too
through.
late. I already need a therapist.
You mentioned something really interesting about you mentioned BTS, which
in passing.
It made me think. It's been blowing my mind how huge they've gotten in America.
Yes.
Like Duran Gray had a little stint back in like the early 2000s where they were kind of decently well known in the American metal scene. Cool.
Yeah.
Baby Metal starts blowing up and you're like, holy shit, they're a weird band. I love them. I can't believe that people, you can almost say Baby Metal to any music fan in this country and they'll be like, yeah, I either hate them or love them, whatever. Which cool. And I mean, they're big enough to where they came and did a tour here, a limited tour here that me and Keith actually went to. And it was an awesome show if you like that band. So it was great.
Yes.
But then there's bands like Blackpink and BTS that are like massive here now. Like they are actually substantially well-known K-pop artists. And it's not like they're doing tons of English songs. I'm sure they have translated versions. They're legit doing their thing. And it's huge here. It blows my mind. It blows my mind that cultural barriers like that are being broken down.
Actually,
I mean, my God,
fantastic too.
Yeah,
that's one of the other things
awesome.
that surprises me about it. Like, I love that, right?
Yeah.
That it's it's a lot of the younger people, which it gets a little, some people are like, aren't you a bit old for that? And I was like, what, music?
Right.
It's like, am I a bit old for music? And that's, and you know, I don't, yeah, I am like so excited for the success that they've had, you know, like actually Blackpink had a single come out last night, with, Selena Gomez. So, you know, and it's just fun to watch how, I will say this, you know, I don't know if y'all remember hearing about K-pop Twitter coming to the rescue of, you know, and thwarting some of those, the ways that the police were looking for protesters.
Oh, yeah.
A few months ago, and they were just spamming the thing with fan cams and things like that. It's so funny too, because I have a fan account. And it's funny to watch it, right? Like sometimes like I realize how young some of these folks are, you know, because the fan wars are so serious, you know. I remember when I was growing up, the fan war was, you know, Paula Abdul versus Janet Jackson. And I mean, it's just, you know, I remember one day realizing, wait, Paula Abdul choreographed for Janet Jackson. So stupid, right? It's like, this is stupid. But like, yeah, you could tell these kids all day long that Blackpink and Twice are friends and, you know, support each other, and they still are like, my band's better than yours.
Well, as we know, especially we had this conversation about Star Wars and a lot of other universes out there. Oftentimes, the fans just make the world a worse place in many cases because.
Absolutely. Oh God. Well, like, I mean, I've been on, okay. So like my Twitter account, I remember I set it up and then it just kind of sat there for a bit. And it wasn't till I found, you know, my nerdy tribe on there that I finally was like, I got it now. Right. And it was like, then I got to understand Twitter, started doing live tweets, you know, and all this stuff. And it's like a lot of fun. But yeah, you see a lot of toxic folks in fandoms. It's just, and it doesn't matter. Like you said, it just, and what kills me is like, okay, K-pop, like I said, it's a lot of younger folks, but shoot, like when you're seeing somebody who's, I've been a Star Wars fan since Star Wars 1, or Star Wars, you know, 4. It's like, well, don't you think you should maybe not be harassing, you know, a 20-year-old about appreciating some representation? Do you think you're a bit grown to be like, you know, mad about Rey?
No question. No question. Your discussion about K-pop is very interesting to me. I have not really spent a lot of time listening to the music. I've listened to it. Don't get me wrong. Just because I've got friends that are huge, as Jesse mentioned, BTS fans and those types of fans, and I'll listen and I'll see. Yeah, they've definitely got this huge R&B influence to the music itself. And you mentioned, was it Alex Reed that was
Alex Reed.
the black K-pop star? How is Korea accepting of also the Japanese K-pop star? How is Korea in accepting these sort of outsider types of folks? Are they, because I know Japan sometimes has an issue with it. I remember Crystal K from the 90s and the early 2000s, who was a
yeah, but they welcomed Ladybeard in with open arms, so we're good.
Yeah. But I'm just curious how Korea reacts to sort of folks that are sort of outside of the norm in their music.
So what, you know, just going from what I've heard and some of what I've seen. So, like I said, Alex Reed did a podcast with someone, and she was talking about how, like, in the industry, you know, like the other artists, she didn't see, you know, welcome and everything. It was just kind of, she said a lot of what she faced was less about her skin color and more about the fact that she didn't go through the process. Right. And and that was one of the big things she said she faced. And even like, you know, yeah, there's that R&B tinge sound, but like, even like the setups that they have, these companies, it's like Motown, but like on steroids, right? You know, all the training that these guys get, you know, and everything. So, but, you know, she said that the people, like the general public, some folks had a, you know, major problem. You know, it's, I don't want to step out, but like you know, I read a lot of articles and whatnot, and you know, there's it's not like it's not known that some of these cultures can be notoriously anti-Black.
Yeah.
But it's, you know, she said she did see some of that, but, you know, I don't want to put, you know, words in, you know, anything, but like, you know, some folks deal with that. And I mean, I've, you know, read some blogs of folks some women who've been over there, women and men who've been over there who teach English, and they're, you know, they deal with these kinds of things. Interestingly enough, so some of the more popular members in Twice, and Momo, I mention her a lot because she's my bias.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she's one of my biases. I have 3 because when you have 9 people in a group, how do you pick one? And so, but Momo was the one, like, if you like, I would see her. I saw her dance videos, and she's just brilliant. But she and another girl, Sana and Mina, they call them J-Line because they're from Japan. There's some folks that absolutely just love them, and they're super duper popular. But I mean, even last year, Sana made a statement on their Instagram about the changing of the emperor, the age, right? From one age to the next.
Yes.
And she just made a, you know, basically she's like 23 or something like that, right? So her entire life it's been this one thing, and she's just going into this new age. Oh my goodness. When I tell you the folks came out of the and
Mm-hmm.
it's one of those things where like you can understand, like the Japanese were not kind to Korea, right?
Right.
You know, history shows that they were, I mean, colonizing and some seriously ugly,
seriously terrible stuff. Yes.
Yes. Some really bad stuff. And so some of the folks with anti-Japanese sentiment really just, they saw that post that, you know, that she put out there, and it was literally just a picture of her smiling and, you know, reminiscing on her brief life, and boom. And she was like, she was a wreck for like a couple of weeks, and it was like hard. It was hard to watch as a fan, right? You're just like, but you see that, like, they will love these folks, you know, in these groups, and then all of a sudden you have those tensions that are under the surface, and it's hard to, you know, because I don't want to say too much as an American outsider, like, I mean, for God's sakes, American interlopers, right?
Sure.
but you know, I want to be very careful about it. But it just, you know, just as a fan, it was hard to watch, and as a person, just in general, right? It's like, she didn't have anything to do with it, and it's not like she was saying "Hail Japan." Do you know what I mean? You know,
she wasn't. And all of my Japanese friends, regardless of their political opinions, when the clock ticked and it became Reiwa, which is the new era under the new emperor, because the way they do their dates is the emperor sets the era. And so for example, this would be Reiwa 1 because we're in the first year of the Reiwa era. You know, all Japanese were like celebrating the introduction of this new era, and it's a cultural thing. It's really hard to really judge someone for participating in their own culture, but I do get the historical problems that Korea has, and I know that I actually visited the Yasukuni shrine in Japan.
Oh, wow.
The big controversial shrine that the prime minister is never supposed to visit because it is the shrine to the war dead in Japan, which includes all of the war criminals from World War II. So, and I was there, you know, and of course I got some looks like, why is this white guy in this shrine? But I wanted to see what the big deal was about. But I get it. I understand it. I find it interesting though, that she's as popular as she is. Considering that she's Japanese, and so many Koreans have issues still with Japan.
Yeah. And it's, I mean, again, you know, we say this, I don't know a single, you know, a culture that doesn't say this. You know, the young people seem to be, you know, they handle it differently, you know, very aware of history, very, you know, or somewhat at least, you know, but still at a, that's not them, right, type of thing. And so there's another group I can think of, I believe is one in there is, do they have 2 or 3 I think they have their own J line as well, and it's, those girls are incredibly popular in that group too, and it's just it's cool to see, just how these folks have this dream, and they, I want to say that Sana and Momo had just finished junior high when they were able to sign contracts with the company they're with and started their training there, and that's, but, they went through the process. They did everything. They're like, it's just really, it's cool to see when it's very positive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It does. It just gets, you're like, oh, you hate to see.
There's enough negativity. And I know that they've had issues in the past few years of high-profile suicides within the K-pop industry.
Yes.
And that's always really heartbreaking to see, because you're not talking about someone who's lived a full life. You're talking about someone in their 20s that has decided to end their lives. And
this is
like there's a lot of pressure. Yeah.
Well, and sorry to interrupt. That's like when I read coverage from the Western market, and they always want to lead with that. It's like as if the music industry in general is not utter trash. I'm sorry, there's so much. I mean, or like entertainment industry in general, like, right? We all know the jokes about casting couches and stuff like that, and they're quote unquote jokes, but it's because it's real, right? There's that kind of appeal to it, and like I can remember, what's funny is that I'm into K-pop. American pop has never really been my thing.
I feel you.
I'm with you.
It really, like, it's not my, like, okay, if a great pop song comes out, you're like gonna jam to it, but like, it's not my wheelhouse. But when you're reading these Western takes on things where they don't even bother to get to understand, and they just want to put everything off on it being the culture or whatever, it's like, okay, I remember in the 90s, I can't remember how many times, but like someone in NSYNC you would see passed out on stage and someone had to go get him and drag him off, or that kind of thing. Or you heard about what was going on with, and once they started having all those shows, those competition shows for like, making the band or whatever, you saw how these people were treated. And it's like, did we all forget, or have people not watched America? It's like, I don't watch it, but I still see enough stuff. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like,
listen, we're America. We have a right to feel superior to everyone.
God. And oh gosh. Right. So like when it's like, I feel so bad when they talk to some of these folks, and it's like, I would be pissed if someone wanted to talk about my friend's suicide for the 50th time when I've especially, it's like, okay, go read the other article, damn it. It's like, just in actually at the end of last year, is bad. Honestly, time is so not relevant right now. That could have been earlier this year. That there was a couple of suicides last year, and it was, they are, the pressure that they are under, and it's ridiculous. You've got to perform, and their schedules are intense. Like,
I think that kind of plagues the Japanese idol scene a lot too. I know with what was it? Is it Moa Metal or Yui Metal that left? Baby Metal, and everyone
was Yui.
It was Yui. I think it was for similar reasons. She said she wanted to pursue her own stuff, but I have a feeling she just caught a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
Well, I do want to say this. Like, even last year, in Twice, one of the girls, and I do want to say that Mina, she's one of the Japanese girls. Now, Mina is, give you a little background on her. She was actually born in San Antonio. She's a Texan. And then when she was very little, her family moved back home to Japan. But she took a break last year because she's dealing with anxiety. And so, in that kind of culture, and as far as, and when I say culture, I mean like the music scene type thing, right? Taking a extended break, the company was very supportive, and they only shared certain information, and then they asked people, like they one of the big things, and I think this is the same with Japanese idols, the fan sites that follow them around, they asked, they were like, hey, she's not active, leave her alone, and so she was out from like July until earlier this year when they picked up their tour again in Japan. And she's been active with most of the stuff they've done this year. But, she developed anxiety really bad, and it was just, relatable. I have anxiety and major depression. So I'm just like, ugh. But like another member ended up talking about it. She was actually frustrated, and she was in there. They have like how we have Insta Live and stuff like that, Instagram Live. So they have this app. It's their major search thing is called Naver. So they have this thing called Be Live, and you can go in there, and there's a chat function. And the leader of the group, Gio, she was saying, some of the rest of us deal with this stuff. She was like, as a matter of fact, I have depression. And it was just like, whoa, and she happened to be on there's a premium type channel that you can pay for. And so she happened to go into that one because they get a lot of hate comments on the free one. And so she'd go in there, and she was like, like her, I will say this, oh my God, her dating information, she's dating someone, and that got out. Dating, in the States, right? That it's like, oh my gosh, that's awesome, blah, blah, blah. And people talk about it. Like, if you're dating in the Japanese idols, same thing. You don't talk.
You're not allowed.
Yeah, you're really not.
In Japan, you're not even allowed. And if it gets out that they had the one member of AKB48 that had to shave. She shaved her head in ritual supplication and asking, and actually did the full on the ground bowing for forgiveness for dating. Are you kidding me?
Yes, I was so like, it's so frustrating because there's this, basically what would be like the National Enquirer, it's called Dispatch. And they were like following them, and they have these pictures, and it's just like, this is so freaking tacky, right? And they're like, basically they blackmail these companies to not, tell their information, but they can't do it with everybody. And her information, at least, and, like it wasn't, for the most part, the fans were really cool with it on both sides because he's an idol as well. But it was just like, oh my, but it's like, I didn't need to know that. You know what I mean? Like I was, it just, yeah, it's a very interesting thing to watch.
Here's the deal. If they don't want people that are in their industry today, they should hire people like me.
See, I was about to ask, are you bald out of forgiveness for your dating past?
No, seriously. Just hire me. I won't date, I promise.
Well, it's funny. Twice when they first signed their contracts, and some of these bands are like this. I think it's many of them. When they their initial contract, you're not allowed to date for a certain amount of time. So like with Twice, it was 3 years. And so it's just, but like, that whole idea. Okay, there was recently, and that was earlier this year, someone in another one of the big guy bands in EXO, and I can't think of the guy's name. It came out that he was getting married because his girlfriend was already very, very pregnant. And so like, it went right. It's like, it's, this is awesome, right? They're going to be parents, and they're like, it doesn't seem like it was a shotgun thing, right? Like, no, they seemed very happy, but it was, there was certain fans who literally showed up at the company to protest to say that he needed to be kicked out of the band. And it was very interesting. Yeah. But like, I follow
poor fans.
I know, right? And that's basically what a lot of the international fans are like, are you even and it like doesn't matter what other country, like just anywhere else in the world, they were like, are you serious?
Yeah.
You telling me this? Because he's like, the guy's like 28 829. So it's like, that's a whole grown man. Like, what are you talking about? Like, he should be, getting married and having kids. So yeah.
It's a matter of giving this illusion, and it really truly is an illusion to the fans that these people might at some point be attainable to the fan. And it's an unhealthy obsession that they're fostering in these folks. And I think really what needs to happen is what happens in every other country, which is, this is a different class of people, fan. You can admire them, but you can't touch them. So,
right. It's just like, no, right?
Yeah.
And I follow some reporters who are either, they're reporters in Korea or Korean by heritage. And I was following what they said about it. And they're just like, it's even interesting amongst, older Koreans. It's like, yeah, they don't mind that they're, pregnant, quote unquote, out of wedlock, whatever, as long as it's like, yeah, because like grandkids, right? It's like, they're going to get married, right? Okay, cool. Grandkids,
More kids.
It's like, we got family. Yay. So it's like, here you are being bent out of shape about something that like no one else cares about. But I mean, but it is, it's just, that, like, which is why I'm like, I shouldn't say things like obsessed, because those are obsessed fans,
Yeah,
it's like,
truly.
Fair.
Those are truly obsessed people, or like,
You're the good kind of obsessed, right?
yeah.
You're the good kind.
I'm thinking, I like music from all over the world, obsessed person, right? Like,
Good for you.
yeah. So thank you,
That's awesome.
thank you. And
So-
it's so funny. Some of the people I follow on Twitter talk a lot about. I'm going to do it wrong. Is it AKB 48? Like, and
48.
all of it. I love, like, it's just like you watch, and like twice as big in Japan. They laughed at my joke.
There was a chuckle. It didn't come across.
I heard it. But they're big in Japan, and so like they'll be on these shows over there, and so it's like, oh, that person's cool. That person's, you get to see all these other artists, and I love that. So.
Yeah.
So I'm taking a look at my watch, and I think it's time for our lightning round.
Lightning round. Yeah.
Did you say lightning?
Killing the editor here. Killing
Love
the
you.
editor.
It's like,
Well, this is the segment of our show where we basically ask every question. All of the questions. All of we ask all the guests the same questions each week. That way we get sort of that level set of like, how do we connect across humanity? And I will kick off the lightning round now. I just did it to myself.
lightning.
Oh, you did it to me again.
You know what's a great song? You know what's a great musical?
Thunderstruck?
Grease. And yes, actually, Thunderstruck is great, but Grease is a great musical. You know why?
She's
Go Grease Lightning. Go Grease Lightning.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna stop.
Alrighty. All right, here we go.
That one
How do you
podcast
think
episode that never aired.
It never aired because there's so many sound effects. It's so funny. All right. How do you think your hobbies have contributed to your success in your full-time work?
So, one of the things about being a writer, being in content, you have to be able to research things, right? And I think a lot of people don't give, I'm just going to say it, I'm going to be salty. They don't give us a lot of credit for the things we have to do when it comes to researching, because you're jumping into something that you know nothing about and you have to sound like an expert about, unless it is something that you are indeed already an expert about. And so one of the things about having, being into anime, being into K-pop, just all the different things is there's a lot of, honestly, research that goes into that, like, okay, you're in the comics. Okay, well, how many times has Superman died now? That first time in the 90s was something, but, or, okay, how many times can Barry Allen Or, well, is it Barry or is it Wally that keeps, messing up the time string? How many times it's like, okay. Like, I keep blaming 2020 on the flashes.
Yeah.
I'm like, someone has definitely, one of them is messing with the time string.
It's funny because we keep blaming the darkest timeline in Community. So
there you go. So it's when you want to know these kind of things and you're coming in, like, even if, like, I read comics as a kid, but I missed a whole lot. And so it's like having to go back and research. And another one of the things, like I mentioned before, being in a Latin pop, it helped me. Well, I wanted to learn Spanish, but because I was interested in music, just in general, it was one of the things that helped me to learn another language. So, being in communications and knowing more than one language is a handy dandy little tool. So,
perfect. Next question. If you could be one fictional character, who would it be? Or what? It doesn't have to be a who. It could be a what.
Bro, this is like so hard. However, I think I want to be Yang Xiaolong from Ruby.
Okay.
She's a badass. And she has gone through some crazy personal loss. And she still keeps getting up and fighting. Like, she wanted to give up, but she got up and kept fighting. And so now I am a couple of seasons behind, but as of the last one, like, that I saw, she had gotten up and she was like, let's go. And I appreciate that. And
Ruby, available on Crunchyroll, also not a sponsor yet.
Not a sponsor.
Not a sponsor. Or if you are, like a super nerd and you want to have Verve so that you can have all, well, it used to be worth it when it was Funimation and Crunchyroll when they were married. Now they're divorced and that kind of sucks. But
yeah. We'll take anybody's money except for bad people.
Yeah.
And even them, they just have to increase the amount they pay us. All right. Yeah. Final question. What other interests would you like to pursue if time wasn't a constraint?
I would really get back into music. So I wanted to play piano again. I learned when I was a kid, and I think it would really help my guitar playing. So I want to train my ear. So I would give a lot to get back into piano. And when I was a kid, I also took drum lessons, but we never got a set. So that kind of, limits how far you can get. So I would pursue music, big time.
Great. That's a good goal.
It's a great way another great communication, It's
awesome.
a great way to express is, I guess, what I'm trying to say. It's a great way to express.
I love it. All right, that is our lightning round.
Well, with the completion of the lightning round, we are officially at time. But before we go, I wanted to thank you very much for being on the guest, Aisha. It's always great talking to you, and honestly, going to miss chatting with you at State of Search this year in person, but it will be virtual, so at least there's that.
There you go.
Yeah.
So thanks for having me on. I will say this, right? Because I do sometimes feel like such a little, I know I shouldn't, but like I feel like such a little person in this industry, right? And like when you guys, I was like, oh my God, they're going to talk about nerd stuff. That I could talk about the whole thing. It's like, man, we could have me back on. We could do a comics one. We could do, so I really appreciate that you guys had me on. So thank you so much.
It was an easy thing to say, hey, we should have her on whenever we decided to do this. So
absolutely. Yeah.
So, can I throw out another recommendation? I thought about this earlier. Can I throw
well, Jesse gave 2, you can give 2.
We'll let you have a pass.
Thank you. It's a comic, actually. And I normally don't do horror comics, and it's only slightly horror. It's Gail Simone did a series called Clean Room. There's only either 16 or 18 issues, and you can get it in a trade. I think there's 3 trades. So highly, oh my gosh, the art is stupid and amazing. And of course, Gail Simone is like a brilliant storyteller. So obviously about that life. So
sweet.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll definitely check that out. I'm a big horror fan, so that works for me.
You would love it. Oh my gosh.
Sweet.
Oh, we didn't even talk about Twitch, man.
We'll just have to have you back on.
Oh my gosh.
That's right. That's right.
Cool. Well, thank you for being on, and have a good day. This has been the Austin Otaku Podcast.
Bye. This has been the Austin Otaku Podcast. To learn more about us and our show, to be a guest, or to subscribe to our show, go to www.austinotaku.com and follow us on Facebook and Twitter.